All right, I recently talked to another freelancer about the state of the industry because, economy isn't great. The film industry is definitely struggling somehow. And we were kind of talking about not only, obviously, the situation we're in, but why people are afraid, obviously. And yes, you can kind of pinpoint it to things like economy, job situation, I don't know, wars going on, stuff like that, and put a pin into each of these single reasons why people might be unhappy, fearful. And when we talked, he kind of boiled it down to one thing that I found extremely interesting. And he basically put a pin into one specific thing that kind of summarizes all of this. And he said that, or he assumes that the reason why people are so unhappy and are fearful at the moment is uncertainty. We are currently, especially if you're in Europe, we have two wars going on, although obviously they have been going on for a while, so they are not really that talked about in the news. So it's basically not in everyone's mind anymore. We have things going on each side of the pond with, I don't want to make this political, but there are obviously people in might positions that whatever they're doing, it impacts basically the whole world. These wars impact the whole world. The economy is very noticeable in a place where you don't know how to pay your bills, or you don't know if a job is coming in if you're a freelancer. And even friends who are employed are afraid to lose their jobs. And it's always a state of, as my colleague said, uncertainty. You don't know what's going on. It's in the past, it was like, okay, things are bad, but it still felt like you are, in air quotes, somewhat in charge of your destiny in a way. But now there is so much things, especially since COVID, so many things that influence you from the outside that you have you cannot kind of change it. It's just coming, and then you have to kind of deal with the shitty situation you are being kind of thrown into. And this uncertainty is something that people probably are very fearful of. And kind of looping this to another topic, I actually recently listened to a Yellow Card. Probably most of you don't know who that band is. Yellow Card is basically this emo band from the 2000s, 90s, and they had a new album, and I saw that video, and then I kind of went down a rabbit hole of listening to that album again that I listened to when I was younger. And it brought back this nostalgia of, okay, I had these emotions when I was listening to that album, and it was a good feeling, although I listened to it when that was emo back then, where I didn't feel good, right? Still, I had this feeling of nostalgia where I kind of wanted to, or not wanted to go back, but I was kind of craving those times back. And I want to be really specific about this because I already know a couple of people commenting, oh, nostalgia, back then everything wasn't that great either. And I totally agree. When I'm personally talking about nostalgia and kind of in air quotes wishing those times back, it is not necessarily about those specific times, because there are a lot of things that were bad. Racism, although it never went away, I felt like it was, for me at least, as one of the few Asian people where I grew up, it didn't feel good. So I just want to double down on, yes, back then it wasn't better, but back then, it kind of felt the world that you have had around you felt a little bit more certain. And yes, when I was younger then, I didn't know what's going on. Everything felt uncertain. But obviously with my viewpoint now, looking back, it felt at least more certain in a way. Although I didn't know what I was doing. Now, obviously, with my viewpoint of my past, I have done many things right. And despite the fact, as a kid, especially when you haven't found your identity yet, you still knew, yes, there are some forces from the outside, or for example, your boss or whatever, that you cannot kind of influence, but you were somehow still, despite you feeling kind of lost, you were in charge in a way. Back then I knew, okay, I need to figure this out for myself. I need to deal with this. And nowadays, I can kind of emphasize with so many younger people, because there's so many things nowadays that make it so much harder to kind of find yourself, your identity, your path. Because it feels like, and again, this is just a feeling. There are things that you can kind of pinpoint to where you say, okay, this is influencing us in a way that we cannot kind of change in a way, and that would affect our lives. And yes, obviously we had that back then as well, but I feel like nowadays it's even stronger, and that's this uncertainty where people are getting fearful and kind of lost, especially when you're younger. And I'm rambling here a little bit. It's kind of hard for me to put this kind of feeling into words, but going back to nostalgia, I really craved that feeling when I was younger, that those emotions. And nowadays it's kind of weird. Going back to this uncertainty, let's figure this out a little bit. I haven't wrapped my head around it too much yet, but I think if you feel the same way, if you feel like things are so uncertain, there are so many forces from outside that impact your livelihood, be it, as I said, war, where economy changes and everything gets expensive, but you don't get that. You don't get more money than before and stuff like that. I guess that's obviously something that I cannot really solve, or I don't have a good solution for that. I guess the easiest in air quote solution is to always think about how you can diversify. But this is not what I want to talk about, because I'm not the best probably, or I mean, I do these YouTube things. That is the way I kind of keep myself busy and things like that. But this is not what I kind of want to talk, kind of recommend, but rather is to always, if you feel like there is so much uncertainty in your life, and I think it is really important to focus on a smaller thing. If the world gets smaller and smaller, and because of the news and because of the fast way information can travel, the world has become very small. And therefore, you get kind of overwhelmed with everything that's going on, with all of that information, with all of the burden of whatever the world is dealing with. And I believe the best way to deal with that, because that is a lot weighing you down. There's a lot of this uncertainty that I was talking about. It is mentally taxing. And yes, it is important to keep yourself informed, but I think it is also important to kind of protect your mental health and your energy. And with that, I kind of feel like it is important to focus down on what's going on here in the place that you are in. Yes, keep informed, but sometimes it's really good to kind of just turn off the news, turn off, very importantly, social media, because social media, especially if you get to the nitty gritty of news, politics, religion, and whatever it might be, and even if it's just in air quotes smaller stuff like gossip, movie news, and stuff like that, it is really fast to get into this rabbit hole of negativity. And again, I'm not saying don't inform yourself. It is important, obviously, to inform yourself, but it's also important to sometimes switch that off, because it's sometimes a little bit too much for your own mental health and your own energy to consume all of that. So that is one of the recommendations I would say. Switch that off for a short period of time or a longer period of time, whatever time you need, in order not, then this is really important, just like with gaming, just like with, I don't know, fitness and this, or social media also. It should not be about escapism. It should be about, your focus should not be about escaping these things, but rather to utilize this moment to focus on yourself and to kind of re-energize and hopefully get a better perspective or a fresh perspective, right? And once you switch that off, focus. I have this saying, I really like this saying a lot. It's think globally, but act locally, and or help locally. And that it's the same. This is applicable also to yourself. You can think about whatever is going on in the world, but it's really important to kind of take care of yourself, not in the egoistic way, but rather in the way like in an airplane where you're supposed to put the air mask on yourself first before helping your kid. And if you are present, and if you are in a healthy and positive, or not even positive, but in a like good balanced mindset and frame set, it's easier to cope with everything that is going on around you. But more importantly, it's easier to either help other people or positively impact, because the energy, the positive, I'm not this, I don't like this energy talk and stuff like that, but or this spiritual. I'm not that spiritual, but it's the only word that I can kind of use right now. If you have a positive energy, you can influence the people around you in a good way. And I think that is really important nowadays, where so many negative things are kind of bombarding us. Yeah, I mean, that's my recommendation. If this uncertainty is kind of weighing you down, then I think the most practical way is to kind of switch that off, everything that is kind of bombarding you, and then trying to focus in order to get in a better mental health state, and either be, instead of negative, be in a neutral baseline, or if you can, be in a positive energy. And then you cannot change the world. It's impossible, but you can change whatever is around you, either your life, your family, your people you work with. And that's, I believe, really important right now with everything that is going on. But yeah, this is just something that I really wanted to share and talk about. I'm still also wrapping my head around this, because I think the person I talked to, this word uncertainty really kind of encapsulates everything that I wasn't sure why it is currently there's so much negative vibes around me. And yeah, it basically is a really good word. And I hope this is helpful if you had the same feeling as well. All right. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe check out to have something completely different. Check out the video from yesterday up here. YouTube thinks that you liked the video down here. And don't forget to subscribe by clicking the button up here. That way we see each other in the next video. Thank you very much.